And the fight for that mountain of gold is about to take place. And that's the Malhama. We say that it is an ocean of oil underneath the river, which one day is destined to function as gold. And that already happened. If you study the world of money, it will tell you something about how this money that we now use came into being. Where did this paper come from as money? When paper money first came into being, when the Bank of England was established, 17th century, it came into being in the form of a check, or at that time it was called a promissory note check. So I write a check, you can go and cash it. Provided that you can cash the check, no problem with the check. But if I'm writing checks and I don't have money in my account, I went to the showroom, saw a BMW, motor car, wrote a check, took the BMW, I drove out. When I went to cash the check, no money in the account. That's called fraud. You go to jail for that. So at the beginning, paper money were like checks. The problem was that the bank that was issuing the paper would sometimes issue more checks than they had cash. Cheating. And hoping and pray that everybody would not come to cash the check at the same time. So if someone comes to cash the check, they don't have the money, they will say the machine not working or so, can you come back? Yeah? So the bank would not burst. But sometimes it doesn't work and the whole thing collapses. That's what happened with the Bank of England. That happened in France, it happened many places. It's also called a Ponzi scheme. The Zionist Jews and the Zionist Christians, when they won the First and Second World Wars, they decided they wanted to create a new monetary system of money that they will control. And paper money came into being as universal money. Made a law that it is illegal to use gold as money. Well, Allah made it halal, but they made it haram, which is shirk. If Allah makes something halal and you make it haram, you commit shirk. And if I follow you in it, I am also in shirk. The system was called the Bretton Woods system. And they agreed that in order to have it's called a fig leaf to hide the shame, they will take one paper money, only one, and you could cash it for gold. It's called redeeming in gold. And because they wanted the United States to become the new ruling state in the world, replacing Britain, they chose the US dollar. So at Bretton Woods in 1944, the United States formally replaced Britain, and Pax America formally replaced Pax Americana. When the US dollar was chosen, that only this paper could be cashed. And the rate was 35 US dollars. When you cash it, you get 1 ounce of gold. But that was only a fig leaf. The rest of the world of paper money was only paper. You could convert it to US dollars. So when you ask, what is the value of the Malaysian ringgit? No one will say, well, the Malaysian ringgit is worth so many Pakistani rupees. Huh? Or the Malaysian ringgit is worth so many Bangladeshi taka. No! Malaysian ringgit is worth so many US dollars. Huh? Because all the rest of the paper money in the world must now make sijda before the US dollar. Good. The problem was that the law permitted you, if you were a central bank, the law permitted you to take the US dollars and ask the American government to give me the gold. The law permitted it. And only one leader in the world, and he was Muslim, General Charles de Gaulle. He was not at all happy with an unjust monetary system which gave an unfair advantage to the United States over France. Charles de Gaulle was not so much concerned about the fact that you could take paper and make money. What he was concerned about was this was advantageous to the United States and disadvantageous to France. So he decided to sabotage the system. So he kept on giving the United States dollars and demanding the gold. Nobody has dared to do that. Nobody has dared to do that. Because you know, the United States has a big stick. But Charles de Gaulle kept on doing it until they removed him from power, the Zionists. He stood up in the French National Assembly and gave a powerful address condemning this monetary system. No Muslim leader ever did that. But we have to pause to give tribute to one man. The world has forgotten him, Ahmad Sukarno. One man, only one, in the whole world of Islam, only one. And Ahmad Sukarno, who today is forgotten even by his own people. He was so against this monetary system that he took Indonesia out of the IMF. And he took Indonesia out of the United Nations. And there are Muslims today who are so, to use a polite word, ignorant, that they would criticize Ahmad Sukarno for taking Indonesia out of the UN and out of the IMF. But Imran Hussein says this is the one leader that the world of Islam could be proud about. Finally, in September 1971, after Charles de Gaulle had been removed, the French government again went to the United States with US dollars and demanded the gold. But now the United States realized that the game was up. They had printed too much paper and they didn't have the gold. Normally you should send the United States to jail. But who can do that? Huh? So what Richard Nixon did was to, Sunday morning, announce to the world, we gave our word, but we don't have to keep our word. That's America. We gave our word that we would redeem US dollars for gold. But we don't have to keep our word. We're not going to do it anymore. So now, no currency, no paper in the world, none, can be cashed. You just write checks and that will be your money. Who could write the most checks without the most money? Huh? So get a checkbook and start writing checks. The problem is, if you have an American checkbook or a French checkbook or a German checkbook or an Australian checkbook or a Singaporean checkbook, you could write checks. They call it hard currency. But if you have a Bangladeshi checkbook or Pakistani checkbook, you can write as many checks as you want. You cannot even buy a cup of coffee in Manhattan. See? So now you have a bogus monetary system which gives to the enemies of Islam the capacity to make as much money as they want by simply writing checks and let the donkeys in the world accept the checks. You don't have to work anymore to get money. No. In a world filled with donkeys, all you have to do is write checks. You could buy all the oil of Saudi Arabia free of charge. All you have to do is to get paper and pen and write checks. But this is a risk you're taking, because it's a house of cards. It could collapse. Once you had the gold, you had some security. But now the gold is no longer there. So from 1971 to 1973, they're searching for something to keep the house of cards strong.